49-year-old HDB house built like a terrace in Whampoa was recently sold for a whopping $1.28 million in June 2021, taking over the top spot of a 5-room resale HDB located in Pinnacle Duxton previously, which changed hands for $1.258 million last September in 2020. So Andass, over the past 11 months, resale prices have continued to soar, and now we actually have a new contender for the highest sale yet in Whampoa. So could you tell us more about what happened here?
The first thing is, you mentioned about the property price trend. So in the past 11 months, property price trend has been going up for the HDB and the private area as well. And this is largely due to COVID. People are starting to work from home, forced to work from home. And now they suddenly all realize that the home is not just a place where they sleep 8 hours a day, but also a place that they work 8 hours a day, the other 8 hours of the day. So the house suddenly becomes somewhere that they are willing to put a little bit more budget to find a place that has good amenities, has good transport network system, has nice scenery, bright, windy, place with storage area, a bigger house. So they are putting more emphasis into buying the best house possible, because now it's not just a home, it's also an office. Yeah. The second question that you mentioned is the interesting unit on Whampoa. So Whampoa is recently sold for 1.268 mil.
1.268.
And it was sold by Property Lim Brothers. A very good job done by them. And right before that, the highest quantum unit was actually Pinnacle Duxton, which is right smack at the middle of a city fringe. So you have these two products being the previous highest property price recorder and the newest one, the previous and the newest highest property price units. And they both have a totally different genre. One is a high-rise, beautiful scenery, quite a new flat, about 10 years since TOP, roughly about there. The other one is a landed terrace house, very limited number of stock in Singapore, and the lease is halfway through, halfway gone. So you have 50 more years to go. So totally different genre, but yet they command both the same, similar kind of price tag. So that is very interesting. That's a trend that we are seeing, that people are recognizing what kind of properties that they like, they are willing to put in more money. And we are seeing then the public putting their money into the place that they really love staying in.
Okay, thank you, Andass, for replying to that. Okay, since we have covered already how they have reached all-time high prices, but it's still $1 million and more for a HDB resale flat. That seems to be on par with private apartments and even condominiums. So how does this compare, like HDB versus private?
A better comparison may be Pinnacle Duxton versus the private property around this area, around the same area. So Pinnacle Duxton was the highest unit was the highest quantum unit was sold at $1.258 million. That is a S2 equivalent to 5-room flats of a normal HDB flat. And if you look at the PSF wise, it was sold roughly about 1,000 odd a little bit, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you look at the same PSF, if you look at the PSF of a similar private property within this area, within the same age band with the same view, you are looking at a PSF of roughly about 2,000 plus PSF. And that is twice the price. So apple to apple, private property still costs roughly about twice if you look at this comparison.
Okay. So could you actually also tell us how is this affecting fellow sellers and buyers of the current HDB resale market? And you already addressed as to what is triggering the demand. Like we actually need home offices apart from just a home. But how will this actually affect sellers who are able to command the price, but are buyers also willing to fork out the money?
The trend that we have seen in the past 1 year or so is that people recognizes, like what I mentioned earlier, people recognizes the importance of a house, not just as a home, but also as a place that they work, live, and play within that environment, safe environment. So with that kind of mentality, there's a paradigm shift in people's mindset that they are more willing to pay for the house that they want to buy.
Yeah.
And this is likely going to stay. At least engraved in our hearts and mind that we are going to pay more. As for affordability wise, there's always a limit on how much people can afford to get such a priced property that they really want. So there will always be properties that are older, with less lease remaining, with less accessibility, less infrastructure around that area, that commands a lower price that they can afford. And with all the grants from HDBs, which they are doing a fantastic job, people are most likely able to still afford a HDB flats.
Yeah.
Even not a resale, they can still afford a BTO. So this, I have to say kudos to HDB, they are doing a very good job over there.
So with regards to this, as to what you just said, do you have any personal experiences with helping your clients sell or purchase such units?
Just last year during the COVID period, I sold 2 of such units. One is one of these priced HDB flats in City View, Boon Keng. So that unit was affected by COVID. But the buyer knew that COVID is not going to stay in their house forever. So the buyer went ahead to buy that unit without even setting foot onto the unit once.
Not even a physical viewing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the house was sold without the buyer ever visiting the house. So that unit was sold right before Circuit Breaker 1.
Okay.
And the second unit that I sold that was beyond 1 million was a 4-room flat at Pinnacle Duxton. So we call it the S1 unit, which is equivalent to a 4-room flat layout, mid-floor. So in that sense, in this category, my unit actually broke the historical price record for this genre.
Wow.
Mid-floor, 4-room flats.
Yeah, mid-floor, not even like
crossed
up
$1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So the X value at the time was 900 plus. And for such a unit, especially during that period of time, one thing interesting that we saw was people are still buying house. Just that are agents able to show them this house? They are buyers, but are there enough sellers? There are enough sellers, but are there enough agents who are able to pass the selling information to the buyers? And that was sophisticated because at that period of time, everything to us was new.
Yeah.
But what we were able to harness was technology. So during Circuit Breaker 1, when everything was brand new to us, we introduced something called the Zoom viewing, Zoom presentation, and we created videos of that house without myself even visiting the house before.
Wow.
I haven't visited the house before.
That's a lot of changes.
It was given to me during Circuit Breaker 1. I can't visit the house.
Yeah.
I taught the owners how to take certain clips and we make it into a video slideshow, a video show, and we created different kind of viewing methodologies. And eventually, even before the Circuit Breaker 1 was over, more than 100 groups have seen this particular house.
More than 100.
Yes, even before Circuit Breaker 1.
That will take very long if it was physical viewings, yes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a COVID period, we will have much less people who have seen this house. But because of something that was negative, we are able to push up the marketing of this price even more. So this is how we harness the situation of crisis to the advantage of the seller.
Yeah.
And of course, with all this good effort put in, the house was able to sell at more than $1 million. And if you ask me, is the house worth more than $1 million? I say definitely yes. And it's worth even much more than what I sold in the future.
Wow.
Maybe not now, but it will happen in the future. So I'm also happy for the buyer as well. Of course, I'm happy for the seller because we managed to fetch them a very good price.
Yeah.
But for the buyer, I'm also happy for them because in the future, they will really appreciate this unit. Very nice view, very good amenities, very good connectivity.
Very good connectivity indeed. We know that prices will definitely increase. This is just the beginning. But where do you see us moving forward from here in the HDB resale market?
Some time back, Lawrence Wong mentioned about the lease decay, and that of all the HDBs in the market right now, only 5% of them will ever get SIRS.
Only 5%.
So he gave an estimated figure.
That's very little, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very little.
Yeah.
So this small little value actually sets fear into people's hearts. And as a result, the effect of the lease decay has really grown a lot. So people are really afraid and became very mindful and wary about the lease decay. So as a result, a lot of houses, HDB flats, that the lease are lowering, the price lowers as well. In fact, there's this ballast curve method that they use to estimate the price of the property with respect to the aging lease. So the price of a property flat is not a linear curve with respect to the age and price, but it is a decaying curve. And that is the ballast curve. So in the recent trend, we noticed that the effect of ballast curve seems to kick in. People are starting to factor that into their equation, into how they set up their budget. And of course, there's a limit of how much they can use from their CPF, how much they can get from the bank loan if the lease is decaying as well.
Definitely.
So all this sets in to push the property price of aging property, HDB flat, even lower. So as a result, you will always have HDB flats that are more affordable because of aging lease, and HDB flats that have fresh lease, higher view, but higher quantum as well. Most of them in the same or similar vicinity, especially like places like Pinnacle Duxton, where it's not a new town anymore. So you have Tanjong Pagar in that area. Very old, pretty old HDB flats. You have Everton Park. You have Sago Lane. You have Bukit Merah, Selat, for example. So these are aging HDB flats, and the location is almost just as good as Pinnacle Duxton, but then the price is a lot more affordable. So people who enjoy the good location, the amenities, infrastructure, they can always go for such a unit. People who still cannot afford, they can downgrade to maybe a 3-room flat instead of a 5-room flat.
I see. So it's all within the good means of budgeting as well.
Yes, certain compromise have to be given. And I think the first round of compromisation would be based on the aging lease.
Aging lease, So it's whether people can live with the fact that the unit is old, the people around are old.
Well, some of the areas like some of the older HDB flats, the neighbors may not be very old. Yeah, some of them are not. Quite young. The demography is actually quite young.
Speaking of futures, what is your advice to new home buyers, say like people like myself who intend to start their own family soon and in need of a place of their own, just to have a matrimonial home of sorts?
I was a young couple once, so I understand the pain entirely. And my advice to young couple, to yourself especially, is to differentiate between needs and wants. On one hand, you need certain things. On the other hand, you want a lot of things. So it became apparently important, extremely important, when you have to decide between one of them. When you don't have enough resource to get both of them. So one is a need, one is a want. A house that has good infrastructure that allows you to be psychologically happy and productive within that space, I think that is a need. And investment is important, very important for the longer future, but for immediate need within the next 1 to 5 years, maybe not that time crucial yet, because I can tell that you're very young. So as long as you're not beyond 35 years old, I think you still have time. So 35 years old is a magical number. We won't go into that in this talk, but I think you still have time before you hit the 35 years old mark. So at this point in time, for investment, I think you can still classify that as a secondary, as a want.
Okay.
You
it's
still
not a
have
need.
you still have that 5 years to play around with, to find a house that you can live in comfortably and be very productive in. So for yourself, if price is an issue, put the emphasis on the place that you really enjoy living. Give some compromise on, for example, the lease. Give a compromise on the lease, on the investment portion. Get a house that you really want, that you can really live comfortably. It could be near your parents-in-law. It could be near the schools, amenities, near the MRT, near to the workplace, near to the potential pool of workplaces. It should be based on that more than
For sure.
more than investment.
Yes, of course. Wow, that's a lot of information. Very, very helpful. It's been eye-opening as well. Thank you so much, Andass, for being here with us for the interview.
Thank you for the interview.
And we look forward to the next time where we get to speak with Andass on Primetime Property with Andass.